Welcome back to the Cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin just broke out above key short-term resistance alongside the RSI also breaking out towards the upside. And with this latest breakout, we just wiped out a bunch of liquidity that was sitting just above the price. But now that we've already taken out that liquidity, obviously right now we don't really have a lot that is still sitting above the current price of Bitcoin, which means right now we're coming in for a retest of this key level on the price chart. So in just a moment, I'll be talking about what that means for the price of Bitcoin moving forward and what my exact Bitcoin trading strategy is. So I'll be revealing that in just a moment, alongside the price of Ethereum, which is still struggling in the short term, playing out this bearish divergence, alongside the price of Solana doing the same as well in the short term. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the 4-day Bitcoin price chart, and right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously right now we're getting very close to breaking out above these previous all-time highs here based on the weekly candle closes, which would at least temporarily invalidate this bearish divergence. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously right now we're continuing to see bullish momentum showing up here in the weekly Bitcoin MACD after we've just seen a recent bullish crossover in this indicator. And if we're taking a look at the last few times we've seen this signal confirm in this indicator on this time frame for the price of Bitcoin, we've seen much more bullish price action play out in the coming weeks and months for the price of Bitcoin. So of course we could see little short-term cool-offs here and there, day-to-day price action, but overall I'm still bullish on the price of Bitcoin when we're talking about the upcoming weeks or months. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, obviously right now we're getting very close towards all-time record highs for the price of Bitcoin. Now we are finding some resistance at close towards around 106,000 based on these candle closes right here at the highs on the 3-day time frame. And of course we also have a bit of short-term resistance at around 108 to 109,000 based on these candle wick highs here. And as for support, at least based on this chart right here, we have this major area of support based on previous significant resistance flipping into new support, sitting in between around 96,000 to 98,000. But between the current price of Bitcoin and that area of support, we also have a decent amount of support at around 102,000, give or take. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, obviously over the last week approximately, we've seen mostly choppy sideways price action, which is exactly what I've been talking about pretty much every day for the last 1 week here on the channel, basically expecting a cool off in the short term, helping to reset the RSI out of these overbought territories. And now obviously we have seen a reset over the last 1 week, but despite seeing a slight reset here, cool off in the short term, obviously the daily Bitcoin RSI, as of recording this video, is still sitting pretty close to overbought territories. So with just a quick pump towards the upside, we'll quickly re-enter into overbought in the daily RSI. And so ideally it would actually be better for the Bitcoin bulls out there, better for this bullish trend, if we actually see a little bit more of a cool off, maybe for another few days, maybe another week, that sort of time frame, before ultimately breaking out, because in that situation would have much more room towards the upside, more room to run. But either way, obviously it is good to see this short-term cool-off that we've already seen for the last 1 week. And of course, the trend is still clearly bullish for the price of Bitcoin, despite seeing these slowdowns along the way. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, just over the last few hours or so, in less than a day, obviously, we've seen this breakout towards the upside. So we've technically now confirmed a candle close above this line of resistance, which was sitting at around 104.2k approximately. And with this latest breakout, this technically now invalidates a previous bearish divergence that did form back here, and obviously has been playing out in the short term in the form of a short-term cool-off, one of the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence, either choppy sideways price action or a slight pullback. But now that we've seen a breakout in the RSI into higher highs above this line of resistance, alongside a breakout in the price into higher highs in the short term, of course those are invalidation signals to invalidate this previous bearish divergence here. But in order to keep this breakout valid, in order to continue to play out the breakout towards the active price target, we of course need to hold above this line on the price chart now, and that is sitting at, once again, around 104.2k approximately. So especially if we start confirming candle closes back below around 104,000, of course, at least in the short term for this breakout, that would invalidate the breakout and invalidate this short-term price target just for this price pattern here. And obviously with this latest short-term breakout in the price of Bitcoin, this has now finally wiped out that liquidity that was sitting just above the price of Bitcoin at around 105,000 and just above 105,000. And obviously for the last half a week or so, for the last few days, almost every day here on the channel, I've been saying over and over again, expect the price of Bitcoin to go towards the upside to take out that liquidity at around 105,000. Once again, it's never a 100% guarantee, but I always say it's extremely likely the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity, especially if it's relatively close towards the price of Bitcoin. And that's exactly what we've seen once again as predicted. But the bad news now is that we've already wiped out that liquidity, which means we don't really have a lot of liquidity that is really to the upside or to the downside here in the short term. So we have a small amount of liquidity building at around 106.5k and a small amount building at around 102.4k and 101,000, but those are just relatively small amounts. So at least based on this chart right here, we don't really have a clear direction anymore. Obviously, once again, we played out that move exactly as predicted, but now that that liquidity has already taken out, once again, we don't really have a lot of liquidity to pay attention to, at least in the immediate short term. And so with that being said, technically, while we're seeing this breakout, while we're holding above around 104,000, of course, in the immediate short term, we're currently looking more bullish than we are bearish. And even if we see a bit more of a cool off here, overall, the trend on the 3-day chart, the daily time frame is still bullish once again, despite seeing short-term cool-offs. And so, of course, when it comes to my trading strategy, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Of course, I've been bullish for weeks now on the channel since lower prices all the way back down here when we broke out above this key point of resistance here. It was at that point, which I shared very transparently here on the channel, and I've been sharing every day since then, that I am in a long position trading the bullish price action. And so you can see that over the last one day, I've actually really made no new changes to this position. So my entry price, once again, still at around 88,000. And overall, I'm still long on the price of Bitcoin, despite taking a small amount of profits here and there along the way. But once again, still long on Bitcoin. And my stop loss has not changed over the last one day. So obviously, as you can see here, my stop loss is still in profits above my entry price. And overall, being very transparent with this trade right here, you can see my current unrealized profits at around 9,200 USDT and realized profits around 3,700 USDT. So overall, well over 12,000 USD, almost 13,000 USD in profits just from this one small long position, which I've been sharing every day over the last few weeks very transparently. And when it comes to exiting this long position, because this is more of a swing trade for the price of Bitcoin, there's no one particular price level I plan to close the entire trade, because at least in my situation, that has not usually worked out to be a good trading strategy. Obviously, trying to time the exact bottom or time the exact top usually does not work very well. And so when it comes to exiting this trade, essentially at key levels towards the upside, I'll slowly take a bit of profits here and there at some key points of resistance, as I have already done over the last couple of weeks, taking a small amount of profits here and there at points of resistance. And anytime we flash potential short-term warning signals, like a bearish divergence, for example, I may take a little bit more profits out of the position, just slowly reducing the size of the trade as we head further towards the upside. And also, as the trade moves further and further into profits, I'll slowly move this stop loss further and further into profits to secure more profits even in the worst case scenario. And so that is my exact trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin. And obviously, you can clearly see it is working out very well, as I've been sharing here on the channel, once again, very transparently. And if you want to take trades just like this for yourself to make a lot of easy profits in the crypto market, obviously you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on 2bit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 you can claim onto your 2bit account just by trading crypto. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also claim a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNext as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNext below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to 35,000 in USDT onto your BTNext account. But But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get deposit bonuses. Like for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, the first and second link below these videos. And in case you're wondering, Bitnex is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, and at least for now, we're continuing the short-term rejection from this very important area of resistance, the golden pocket area of resistance, which is still sitting in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. So as I've been saying since before we saw the perfect rejection here, expect the price to struggle in that area. And now if we can ultimately confirm a breakout with candle closes confirming above around 2.8k, in that situation, the next target would be sitting at around 3.2k to 3.3k. But obviously for now, we're still finding significant resistance in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. And as for support to watch out for, we're getting close to retesting this level of support sitting at approximately 2.4k, so around 2400. Expect some support around there. But if we see candle closes confirming a break below around 2.4k, in that situation, it's possible we could actually retrace down towards this very significant level of support based on previous resistance and also previous support, and that's sitting at around 2.1k if we first confirm a break back below 2.4k. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, it's clear that at least for now, the price of ETH is continuing to show signs of weakness in the short term, exactly as I've been warning about every day since all the way back up here. Obviously, I've been sharing this short-term warning signal, the bearish divergence, telling you it's extremely likely and that we should be expecting a bit of a pullback coming next in the coming days, maybe the next week, give or take. And already over the last few days, this has been perfectly playing out exactly as I've been predicting, and I continue to expect this moving forward. Once again, at least maybe over the next day or so, possibly longer, possibly a few days, but just in the short term, expect continued weakness for the price of ETH. And then potentially in a few days from now or a week from now, once we finally start to form some bullish price structure in the shorter term RSI here on the 4-hour time frame, for example, forming higher lows and higher highs in the RSI, that will be a sign of strength telling us that potentially the bearish divergence is over and we can finally see a little bit more of a recovery. But once again, that is not happening right now. We're still playing out weakness, bearish price structure in the RSI. And so that is what I expect. That is what I predict for Ethereum, as I've already been saying for the last half a week, for over half a week now. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 3-day time frame, technically speaking on this time frame, we're still actively playing out the bullish divergence, which confirmed basically all the way back in April, near the start of April. And obviously, as I've been saying pretty much every day here on the channel since all the way back down there, this means we're most likely going to see a larger bullish relief for the price of Solana. So despite seeing short-term pullbacks, short-term cool-offs here and there, technically speaking, the larger situation on the 3-day time frame is still pointing in the bullish direction, at least for now. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, currently we're still hanging around this level of support, sitting at approximately 167, give or take. And so expect support around there, at least in the short term. Once again, roughly around 166 to 168. But if we break below that area, and especially if we fail to get back above that area and we find resistance there, in that situation, expect a continued drop down towards roughly around 154. And then below that, we have some major support at around 144 to 146 approximately. And technically speaking, the price structure is still pointing in the bullish direction. Once again, despite seeing short-term pullbacks, we are forming higher lows and higher highs for the price of Solana on the daily time frame, the opposite to this previous bearish trend, where of course we were trending in the bearish direction, but we can see short-term bounces, short-term bullish reliefs during a bearish trend. And right now we're basically seeing the exact opposite. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour Solana price chart, at least for now, Solana is showing signs of weakness. Once again, still playing out this warning signal exactly as I've been talking about since all the way back up here. So once again, the bearish divergence just on the 4-hour time frame here is technically still active and influencing the price in the shorter term, which means we should be expecting either a bit of choppy sideways price action like this, or maybe a little bit more of a pullback. So once again, weakness in the short term for Solana. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, right now, as I recorded in this video, the price of XRP is perfectly finding support along this retracement level, which is sitting at just above $2.30, more specifically around $2.33 to $2.34. So at least in the short term, expect support around there. But if we start confirming candle closes below, especially $2.30, $2.30. In that situation, we could possibly drop all the way back down towards around $2.12 to $2.15, where the next major area of support is sitting. And as for resistance, obviously, if we see some sort of bounce here, continue to expect significant resistance in between around 256 to 262 approximately, based on the golden pocket area of resistance, where we have also previously found a lot of resistance. And if we're zooming further into the short term, obviously just on this 3-hour XRP price chart, technically speaking, we've not yet fully invalidated this short-term bearish divergence, which means continue to expect a weakness in the short term for the price of XRP. So basically, the same sort of price action we've seen over the last half a week is what I continue to expect, at least in the immediate short term here. And obviously, this has been playing out exactly as I've been warning about, but it's not necessarily all bad news if we continue a pullback for the price of XRP, because like I explained in my last video just yesterday, if for example we pull back all the way back down towards roughly around $12 give or take, and then we bounce from somewhere around there, in that situation we're possibly forming a very large inverse head and shoulders pattern here, which is a massive bullish price pattern if it forms and confirms. I want to make this clear, at least for now, we have not yet confirmed that pattern or even fully formed the pattern. We need to see a further pullback first, and then a bounce, and then ultimately a breakout above this golden pocket in order to confirm that. But that is just something to watch out for in case we see a bit more of a pullback in the short term in the coming days or the coming week. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, as of recording this video, the price of Chainlink is finding a bit of short-term support around, of course, this golden pocket acting as support based on previous significant support and resistance, and that's sitting in between around 1490 to 1550. So continue to expect at least some short-term support around there. But if we start confirming candle closes back below around 1490, in that situation we could likely see a drop back down towards around 1350 as the next support, and below that we have some more support at around 1290. So basically close towards that $13 area. That could be coming next if we first break below 1490, which obviously for now has not happened. And so while the price of Chainlink is remaining above this golden pocket here, while we're finding support at this area, technically speaking, the price structure is still currently bullish unless we start breaking below this area, obviously. And as for resistance to watch out for, we still have significant resistance at around 1750 to 1760, pretty much exactly where we rejected from. But obviously I've been talking about that exact level of resistance, warning about that level since before we saw that perfect rejection here. And as usual, the price of Chainlink plays out similar price action to what Bitcoin and a lot of the crypto market's doing. So for example, if altcoins in particular like Ethereum, Solana, if they are showing weakness in the short term just like this, then it's very likely that Chainlink and the rest of the altcoin market in general will also show weakness in the short term. And so overall, that is what I'm expecting in the somewhat shorter term. That is the larger price structure and the key levels to watch out for pretty much all of these cryptos as I've been talking about. And of course, that is my exact trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin. And as always, if you want to take these trades for yourself, make sure to check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can profit from the crypto market like what I'm doing right here, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen, because the video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or shorts positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.